Neuroscientists have found that with repetition alone, you can start to physically rewire your brain in just weeks. That means every thought you repeat is reshaping the structure of your mind, and by extension, your life. Think about it. Your focus isn't just attention, it's instruction to your nervous system. But how do you choose the right instructions? That's what we're going to break down today, with methods you can actually try for yourself. Picture this. A man in his 60s loses his ability to speak after a stroke, yet, through practice and repetition, he starts to form brand new neural pathways. Over time, he learns to communicate again using parts of his brain that were never originally designed for speech. If a damaged brain can rebuild itself in this way, then what's stopping your healthy brain from reshaping the patterns that guide your life right now? Your brain holds around 86 billion neurons, forming trillions of possible connections, and for most of scientific history, researchers assumed those patterns were fixed early on. The old belief was that once you reached adulthood, your brain's wiring was set in stone. But discoveries in the 1990s changed that story entirely. We now know your brain doesn't work like a frozen circuit board. It's more like living clay, constantly being shaped by what you do, what you think, and what you focus on. Here's the catch. Most people go through life on autopilot, repeating the same thoughts and behaviors until they carve deep grooves into their nervous system. The brain doesn't distinguish between helpful repetition and harmful repetition. It simply strengthens whatever you practice. That means if you mentally rehearse fear, lack, or worst-case scenarios, your neurons wire themselves into networks that make those patterns easier to access over time. Anxiety isn't only an emotion in this sense. It becomes a physical structure in the brain. Think of your mind like a city. The more traffic that flows along a certain street, the wider that road becomes, until it feels like the only obvious route. Meanwhile, unused roads start to crack and disappear. The same goes for neural pathways. What you use repeatedly gets stronger. What you neglect fades away. This is the basis of Hebb's law, which says neurons that fire together wire together. Each repeated sequence builds a faster, smoother track until it becomes second nature. You can see this in practice when people constantly run mental disaster drills in their heads. Over time, their brains build out thick, well-paved circuits for worry, so that becomes the default route even in neutral situations. On the other hand, when researchers studied London taxi drivers who spent years memorizing the city's complex street maps, they found the part of the brain responsible for spatial memory physically grew. The brain added tissue to support the skill, proof that experience reshapes the structure of the mind. The hopeful side is that these changes don't only happen in extreme cases. Meditation has been shown to thicken areas of the cortex related to attention. Learning a new skill like playing an instrument builds fresh connections. Even 2 minutes of gratitude practice each day, continued for a few weeks, shifts neural wiring to make happiness more accessible. What looks like small effort is actually a quiet training of your brain's default settings. So you're not stuck with the mental patterns you've been carrying. You're actively shaping them anytime you direct your attention. Right now, your brain is either reinforcing pathways that support growth or those that hold you back. The real question is, which road are you strengthening? What makes one person's dream become reality while another gets trapped repeating the same old cycles? It's not always about talent or external luck. More often, it comes down to whether they're creating their life unconsciously or consciously. Most of us are shaping outcomes without even realizing it, pulled by old wiring and habits that keep replaying themselves. That's why having a framework matters. Conscious creation isn't about pushing harder. It's about aligning your mind and body so that both work toward the same signal. There are 5 key pillars that help you make that shift, and together they give a structure that goes far beyond simple positive thinking. The first pillar is clarity of intention. Without a clear mental target, your energy scatters. The brain works like a filter, constantly selecting what to notice from the flood of incoming information. This filter is called the Reticular Activating System, and it highlights whatever matches your dominant focus. When you clearly define an intention, it acts like a set of coordinates for this system. Suddenly, conversations, details, and opportunities related to your aim stand out where before they would have gone unnoticed. Vague goals lack this focus, which is why they often lead to weak or scattered results. The second pillar is emotional alignment. A thought without emotion is more like static. It doesn't leave much of a biological trace. But when you couple intention with emotion, the body shifts into a different state. You might have noticed how strongly you remember an event when it carried deep feeling, whether joy, fear, or awe. That same process can be directed toward your vision of the future. Elevated emotions act as fuel, creating chemical signals that deepen the brain's imprint of what you focus on, making the desired outcome feel real enough for your body to believe. The third pillar is inspired action. Action is necessary, but not every step carries the same weight. When you force yourself into activity that feels misaligned, you often meet resistance, exhaustion, or burnout. Inspired action feels different. It arises naturally when intention and emotion are already aligned. For example, if you hold the belief that opportunities surround you, your brain automatically scans for situations where they appear. Following through with these moments feels lighter because the action is part of supporting the vision rather than fighting against it. The fourth pillar is reprogramming beliefs. Much of what you decide day to day is driven by hidden patterns laid down early in life. These beliefs operate like lines of code, influencing behavior long before you consciously choose. By using a catch and replace method, you interrupt limiting stories the moment they surface and swap them with more empowering statements. Over time, this practice rewires your inner code, reducing the pull of old cycles and making new responses your natural default. The fifth pillar is persistence with intelligence. Real change doesn't come from intensity alone. It comes from consistency long enough for the brain to adopt the shift as normal. This often means resisting the temptation to simply repeat yesterday's choices. Each day that you practice the new identity, you strengthen the wiring for it, even if results don't appear overnight. Intelligent persistence isn't about stubborn struggle. It's about staying loyal to the version of yourself you're creating. Together, these 5 pillars give you a reliable system for conscious creation. They move you beyond temporary effort and into patterns the brain can sustain. And once you understand the foundation, the question becomes, what advanced tools can you use to accelerate the process even further? What if you could fast forward the process of reshaping your brain and body so that the changes you want in your life begin to feel natural rather than forced? Many people are familiar with practices like affirmations or visualization, yet often dismiss them as wishful thinking. The issue isn't the idea, but the way it's applied. Without structure and emotional depth, these tools stay on the surface, but when used with precision, they can create measurable shifts in your state of mind and the signals your body sends out each day. One of the most effective tools is the mirror method. This isn't about empty compliments in front of the glass. It's about retraining your self-image by reflecting back the identity you want to embody. Your external world mirrors your internal landscape, so staring into your own eyes while affirming a future self penetrates more deeply than repeating words silently. The act feels uncomfortable at first because it brings you face to face with your current beliefs. Yet that discomfort is the beginning of restructuring your narrative. Over time, affirming the qualities and worldview of your desired future in front of a mirror becomes a way of signaling your mind to match the image staring back. Another structured method is known as the 5x55 technique. It requires writing a single affirmation 55 times for 5 consecutive days. While it may sound repetitive, the practice leverages the brain's tendency to strengthen pathways through repetition. By writing it physically, you involve both thought and movement, sending a stronger signal to your nervous system. The key is not just the writing but the emotion you bring with it. If you engage with the words mechanically, little happens. But when you cultivate the feeling connected to the statement, those lines on the page become new circuits forming in your brain. Anticipatory gratitude works in a similar way, but approaches the process emotionally from the start. It's the act of feeling thankful now for something that hasn't yet arrived. Gratitude is a state the body interprets as receiving, which places you in a posture of openness rather than lack. By flooding yourself with the chemistry of gratitude in advance, you align your biology with the reality you're choosing. This change is subtle at first, but people often report noticing new opportunities or synchronicities because their attention is tuned to match their elevated state. A practical enhancement to all these practices is first-person visualization. Instead of watching yourself in your imagination, like a character on a screen, you experience the scene through your own eyes. You feel the textures, hear the sounds, see the details, as if it's happening now. This perspective makes the brain treat the vision less like fantasy and more like memory, which increases the chance of it being reinforced as a real possibility. One person who practiced anticipatory gratitude for just a few weeks reported not only a higher mood, but also unexpected professional invitations appearing in that same period. These techniques aren't abstract rituals, they are structured ways of lining up thought, feeling, and biology. And once you see their impact, it becomes clear that shaping your reality has less to do with chance and more to do with skill that anyone can practice. Right now, as you read these words, your brain is literally rewiring itself based on this new understanding. Fresh neural pathways are forming, old limitations are being questioned, and your reality creation system is upgrading in real time. You've just discovered that you're not a victim of circumstances, genetics, or past programming. You're the conscious architect of your own experience. Equipped with the most sophisticated reality creation technology ever discovered, neuroplasticity combined with intentional focus. Every second from this moment forward, you face a fundamental choice. Continue operating from old neural patterns that created your current reality, or consciously engage the tools that will literally reshape your brain and transform your life experience. What if I told you this is just the beginning? The rabbit hole of human potential goes infinitely deeper. There are advanced techniques for reprogramming limiting beliefs, quantum principles for manifesting desired outcomes, and ancient wisdom traditions that unlock abilities most people believe are impossible. Your brain's neuroplasticity window is most active right now, in this moment of new awareness and possibility, but without consistent application, these insights will fade back into the background noise of daily life, leaving you exactly where you started. If what you've learned here resonates with the deepest part of you that knows you're capable of so much more, then you're ready for the advanced training that reveals how to systematically redesign your reality from the inside out. Join thousands of others who've decided to stop accepting limitation as permanent and start treating their consciousness as the ultimate creative tool. Because transformation isn't a solo journey, it's a revolution of awakened minds supporting each other's evolution. Your old reality is dissolving as we speak. Will you consciously choose what replaces it, or let default programming decide for you? The universe is waiting for your answer, and your next click determines everything.